Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Quantum Leap. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously, we're picking up where the last episode ended off with Ben in Salvation, and this was like 1800 something, which once again showing you like pretty much, once again, the entire timeline, history is his playground. I doubt they'll make him go that far back in time, but once again, everything is kind of on the field now because of the alterations to the Quantum Leap machine and just like the algorithms and stuff. But either way, if I'm not mistaken, the town of Salvation, I'm like, didn't the Legends of Tomorrow from DC's Legends of Tomorrow, didn't they meet Jonah Hex there? Like, it's a town I think they've gone to twice in that show. Because they met Jonah Hex at least twice, I want to say. I want to say Salvation is where they went. Because that was pretty early on in the show. I want to say it was like season 1, maybe. If I'm not mistaken, it might be a completely different town. But the name Salvation sounded so familiar. It sounds like a place they went to in Legends of Tomorrow. But whether it's the same place they met Jonah Hex initially, I don't remember. Either way, Ben is in the body of Diego, a former gunfighter who, they really didn't go into it, but it is kind of sad. What, you lost your wife, you put your guns up for good, then your son eventually died, and only family he's got left of his granddaughter, who his granddaughter is kind of ashamed of him because it's like, right, Dad talked about what kind of a legend you are and who you are, but here I am, like, she's like, I remember you when I was a little girl, like, you're my grandpa, and I was, so proud of you because of the stories I heard about you from Dad, but now it's like, here you are not willing to fight because some criminals came in town trying to take advantage of the situation. They're basically trying to force people out so that railroads can get built in Salvation. And Diego, the person Ben is in, could be the last line of defense to stop that. But Ben is a pacifist himself. It's like, yeah, like I've never killed anyone before. It's like, that is something that hasn't come up yet. And he's like, yeah, if I kill someone, that is going to stay with me. And I was like, and I think that's an interesting thing to introduce at this point in the series because he hasn't had to be in a situation where he's had to kill anyone. So now, I mean, in fact, what has he done? He's saved lives time and time again. So I think the fact that they introduced that threat at this point in time makes you go like, okay, it could potentially be something coming up later on where Ben will have no choice but to pull the trigger or, kill someone. I mean, that might be the end result of all this. Once again, it seems like everything that's happening to Ben is all for the purposes of taking him on a very specific journey to get him to his end result. But like, it's the lessons he learns along the way that help forge him into who he needs to be. Maybe the Ben that he was before couldn't get the job done, but the Ben he becomes because of this journey is the Ben that can do what's necessary, that will have to do what's necessary, and maybe that time will come where he'll have to even surprise himself and Addison, because even him and Addison have a very different perspective on it. Addison, it kind of comes from the camp of, because she was in the military, it's like sometimes there's just some people that gotta go. She's like, the guy we're going after is a huge piece of shit, like, so you shouldn't feel too guilty about killing him. It's like, yeah, but then you start going down that road of like, you still have to carry that with you regardless of who it is. Like, killing someone isn't easy. Obviously, Ben doesn't really use a gun, so he's trying to get associated with how to use a gun, but it's not that easy. Luckily, the only other deputy left, who basically has to become sheriff now, ended up being there to kind of guide him. Because this town is so important. Like, yes, the people could leave here, but it's their home, and it is a very special place because the lady who runs the bar, she's like, yeah, if I left this town, I'm a black woman, like, who's able to run this town. Because even I was like, yeah, there are, like, a lot of, like, minorities in the town. Like, you see Asian people, you see black people, and it's like, oh, because this is a very special place. It's a place meant for outcasts to welcome in outcasts. Here we get to be whatever we want to be. She's like, I would never have gotten a loan to run and own my own business, but here in Salvation, I'm able to. So this is their home where they're able to be kind of free, have their own autonomy to some extent, just to be able to be themselves without being questioned by the general society. So this place is a special place for so many to fit in, and that's being threatened, and it's up to Ben, or rather Diego, to be the one to set things right, but he doesn't believe he's the one that can do it. Obviously, Valentina, his Diego's granddaughter believes in him so much because she's heard the legends and stuff and is hyping, Diego so much up about like what he can do, but Ben doesn't believe he's capable of it. He tries to find ways around it. Like, right, we don't have to turn this into a gunfight. It doesn't have to turn into death. Like, we could find another way around it. I mean, the problem is that the bad guy ended up blowing up like the blacksmith's place or the smith's place. And so it's like, right, it's for him, it's like that's all he had. And everyone in town's like, no, you have to fight him. This is the only way. And it kind of almost entered it, and I think it kind of has the same result because once that scene happened of like, you need to fight him, not just for Matilda's sake, because she's the one that believed, no, it said Matilda, geez, I don't know where to pull that from. Valentina's sake, that this is also for her sake, but all of our sakes as well. And Ben being the pacifist that he is, it immediately made me think of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I was curious if it was going to have a similar end result, and it kind of does. If you're unfamiliar with Avatar: The Last Airbender, I'm going to dance around it, but Aang is a pacifist because he's an airbender. And obviously it kind of flows with like the airbenders having that very like monk lifestyle. Well, the problem is, because he's a pacifist, Aang doesn't believe in killing anyone. Literally everyone is telling Aang, you need to kill the Fire Lord. And it's just like, he's like, no, that's not what, I'm jumping full spoilers here. He's like, yeah, I don't want to do it. And that impasse that he finds himself at when literally everyone is telling him, you have to kill this guy. It's for the greater good. Addison's doing the same thing to Ben. Everyone else is saying the same thing too, but Ben's just like, I don't know if I can do it. Like, he's like, it's not even just like, not that I wouldn't want to do it. Like, that's a hurdle in its own right. But the biggest hurdle is when the time comes, I physically don't think I'd be able to pull the trigger. And like, obviously he dies in Diego's body, so what is he going to do? So, but luckily for him, well, sadly, Valentina tried to go after the bad guy herself, got captured. And so it's like, right, to protect his granddaughter, Diego ends up taking up the whole, like, all right, let's duel thing. But, like, Ben doesn't have the skills to compensate for it. But Addison reminds him of the people around him, each with their own circumstances, their own, like, specialty. So it's like, right, the entire town comes together for the purposes of, we're going to save this town. And we're going to do it together. I can't do it on my own, but together we can. And so putting everyone's expertise together, it was a well-oiled machine that took everyone, the bad guy and his entire squad down. It's like, oh, don't kill any of them because we need that reward money to pay off the railroad company so they don't build the tracks here and this town gets to stay what it does. So luckily it all works out in the end, so they were able to save the day, didn't kill any of the bad guys, didn't lose anyone in town. So it all worked well, except for the OG sheriff who immediately got killed at the beginning, and the other deputies who left and any other townsfolk that left. But it did bring up the fact is, yeah, sadly, that the railroad company or whatever will be back through. Like, it's only a matter of time. That $10,000 we paid them will only stare them off for a little bit, but there's a nearby deposit of something that they're like, yo, they dig that up and they'll have enough revenue and money flowing off to keep the railroad at bay. Because it also plays into the fact is telephones becoming a bigger and bigger thing. It's like, yeah, kind of taking advantage of that. Oh, future knowledge. I mean, even Ben came up with these like traps and stuff like that because of, it's like, right, his knowledge of the future and knowing how things work. And it was just a well organized trap and it was pretty dope. And it's interesting how this obviously ties into everything with him and Addison, because after last episode, he told Addison like, oh, I remember you now. You're that special someone. I want to get back to you. But the problem is he doesn't remember like their first date, and is once again that time travel thing of once again, whether it be a Henry and Claire from the Time Traveler's Wife, or whether it be the Doctor and River Song of, oh, we're kind of meeting each other at a time. So it's like, right, Addison knows everything about Ben and their relationship. Ben is struggling to remember anything, and he wants to remember everything, but where things kind of currently stand, but for him, it's like, I want to get back to you. That way we can kind of create new memories, I might not be able to remember, because who knows, like in the long run, how long it would take to get his memories back. And even if he got everything back, but it's like, at the very least, I can find my way back to you and we can make new memories. Sadly, their happy times are interrupted when a guy rolls up and he sees Ben for who he is and knows exactly who Ben is. And you're like, wait, what? How is that? I'm not 100% sure. I think she does. The show's probably also said it, but I just never thought about it. It's like, right, Addison sees Ben for Ben. Because anytime we're seeing Ben as an audience, it's also because that's like, well, that's to let us know who Ben is, but also it's like because Addison sees him that way as well. But this person knew exactly who Ben was. It's like, oh, I know you're from the future. You're traveling through time. Stop following me. So we're like, wait. So the end result is him following someone, which immediately you go like, there's no way it's Sam, because I was like, well, we know Scott Bakula's not coming back for the show, so could it be that, Ben can't see him for who he is? And so it is a situation of, that is Sam's character, but he will always be, he'll be Sam, but he'll never be, like, you'll never get to see him as himself because Ben can't see him. I wonder, could it be that he actually can't tell Ben is Ben, but he could tell by, like, what the guy, like, because of all the ways Ben helped out this episode and the way he's been acting. Because this guy, like, when they were at the bar earlier, he kind of gave Ben the stink eye, and then just nothing happened. I was like, what was that about? I was like, that was weird. Like, the camera focused on him and everything, staring Ben down. I was thinking, like, oh, is he going to betray you or something like that? But it never came up. I was like, what the hell is that about? I was like, oh, no, he knows exactly who you are. So, like I said, either that's a Sam situation and maybe he can't see Ben for who he is, and it's just like I just saw because Diego was acting weird, I know it was you. Or two, it's someone else completely different that he's following, maybe. Chasing after someone, is that what this has all been about? Who and for what purpose, We'll ultimately have to wait and see where things kind of go on that front. But present day, the Quantum Leap team has their own issue because a congresswoman ends up showing up because she's in the know about the Quantum Leap project, and like there's been some abnormalities with like the large spike in energy. So she came to investigate. She even says later on she had some ideas, but she was testing the water. She wanted to give everyone an opportunity to come because she didn't know for sure. But after talking to everyone, she kind of figured out. But I did love, talking to everyone. First and foremost, when she talked to Addison, and Allison's just like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And it's like, okay. Oh, such a colorful conversation. I love that Addison handled it her way. Jen, we learned a little bit more about her. So Jen's in the situation of kind of like a black hat turned white hat. She was a hacker, got busted. The government typically is like, oh, you're a good enough hacker, we want you on our side. Because she's even probably like, yeah, you're probably wondering how like a hacker like me got involved in a government project like this. And it's like, right, if she doesn't do the right thing, she could end up back in jail. But I love that she's like, yeah, I need to have consent, like you have to have daily authorization to kind of have access to this information. She's like, well, I have daily authorization. She's like, yeah, but do you have it written down? She's like, sorry, because of my hacker days and stuff like that, I know better than anyone. Basically, you want to have that stuff in writing because you don't want to get caught up on the wrong simple stuff again. So I loved how she handled it. And obviously, I knew my favorite was going to be Ian because I'm like, Ian's kind of a bit of a nervous wreck with this type of stuff. It's like, oh, I'm not good at keeping secrets. But he tries to compensate by like, they like talk about all the science of it and stuff. And the congresswoman is like, cool. I know what you're doing. You're just saying all this stuff. But she's like, I noticed that the amount of large energies, because Ian gave very specific answers. And I'm like, those specific answers are relative to what's actually going on right now. So I'm surprised she didn't push on that more. But her concern was like, no, the energy spike, I know that that's the amount of energy it would take for a jump with the Quantum Leap machine. So she knew something was up. Magic is like, please don't shut us down. We need to get Ben back. And she's like, I'm sorry, but that's not up to me. She was going to run it up the chain, but it's like Jen hooked Magic up with a nuclear option. It was basically blackmail her. It's like, cool, you rat us out, and I'm gonna rat out the fact is that your brother died in a car accident, but you were the one that was actually driving, not him. And so he kind of took the fall for it, and this could basically damage her career, and if not lead to, I don't know if they would be able to press charges against, like if she get arrested for it after the fact. I think she still could. Once again, even if not that, it just also ruined her reputation and her job. But Magic doesn't want to pull the trigger on that. In fact, it's like, right, we could go back in time and make sure that whole thing with your brother didn't happen, which she's happy about that. But sadly, they don't have control over the machine at that point, and well, the Quantum Leap project like that. But they bought themselves enough time to get Ben back here, but still quite a few leaps down the road, and we still don't know what the end result is. We still don't fully know what Janice is getting out of this. Like, the fact is that that congresswoman showed up now. I was like, that's a little suspicious. Like, I wonder was some groundwork, maybe like Ben left some stuff a certain way so that it would draw an outsider's attention, or maybe that was Janice. Doesn't seem like it, because it seems like whatever's going on, Janice wants to continue and doesn't want to take the chance that the government might interfere. But then you also have to think like, well, this might be like some 4D chess moves of like, right, we already calculated and we already knew that the team would never let that happen, because we don't know the full scale of how long Ben and Janice have been working on this, but it dates back quite a bit. But in totality, you don't know how long this has been, like, what, a year-long process, longer. Like, it's interesting. Because obviously, we learned last episode why this project means so much to Magic. So for him, it's like, right, we can't let this project get shut down because it's too important to him and just to the greater good of what they could do and what they can accomplish if they're able to get this under control. But it sets up a lot of interesting things that I'm ultimately curious to see where it all will take us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.